Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to you, wherever you are in the world. I am Tigress Osborne. I'm the chair of the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance, and welcome to the NAAFA Webinar series. Today we have a very special presentation as part of our Fat Liberation Month celebration. The Reverend Dr. E.K. Daufin is here today to talk about fat and faith and working to end weight stigma in spiritual and religious realms. Before I introduce you to the Reverend Doctor, I just want to, first of all, thank our friends Ryan and Benny from Pro Bono ASL, who are here today interpreting for us. And I also want to direct you to Pro Bono ASL's website, which is probonoasl.com, so that you can learn more about their organization and so that you can engage them if you need them for their interpreting, amazing interpreting skills. They have been with us all month for Fat Liberation Month. Our community has been absolutely adoring them, and we are so grateful to them for their love and labor. Thank you, Pro Bono ASL. We also want to let you know about some of the upcoming events that we have for Fat Liberation Month and beyond. This week, we are pleased to be premiering a brand new web series called Ahead of the Curve, featuring our in-house fashion expert and board member, Marcy Cruz. Marcy is going to be having this series once a month for NAAFA and for our fat community. And this month, she's kicking off by featuring designers who work in extended sizes. So we're going to start right off with those folks who go up to 30, 32, 40, and do custom sizing. That is this Friday. And then this Saturday, the incredible poets from Live Big Girl will be doing a spoken word performance for us, followed by a writing workshop for those who want to stay and do a little poetry of their own. That workshop is available for people of all writing levels. And even though the poetry is from the Big Girl experience, folks of all sizes and genders are certainly welcome for this very special event, and that one is on Saturday. You can register for both of those events at naafa.org, NAAFA.org. You can also find out about the remaining Fat Liberation Month events, and I'm pleased to let you know that we are already contracted to have the editors of the Fat and Queer Anthology, which is coming out this month, to be joining us for one of our June webinars. So lots of good stuff coming up. And lots of great stuff coming up from other Fat Liberation partners in this month and June. So follow us on social media, NAAFA Official, so that you can learn about all of those things. Now, with no further ado, I want to introduce those of you who don't already know the Reverend Doctor to the esteemed Reverend Dr. E.K. Daufin. As a lifelong mediator, dreamtime dancer, vocalist, student of many spiritual paths, passions, and potions, the Reverend Dr. E.K. Daufin, she, her, is a fat, intersectional, multi-religious, multifaceted, social change artist, educator, ordained feminist minister, activist, and consultant. She earned her doctorate in multimedia communications from The Ohio State University. Dr. E.K. is the founding advisor of the National Organization for Women Campus Action Network at Alabama State University, a historic HBCU in Montgomery, Alabama, where her company, E.K. Daufin and Associates, is still headquartered. Her multimedia work has been published in many forums, including the Los Angeles Times, Essence Magazine, the Associated Press, academic journals, monographs, and books. Her work has been awarded by the AEJMC Minorities and Communications Division and Commission on the Status of Women, the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Foundation, and others. In addition to her past work with NAAFA, she's collaborated with many size-positive organizations, including ASDA, the Association for Size Diversity and Health, the Fat Studies Division of the International Pop Culture Association, BETA, the Binge Eating Disorders Association, and many others. Ladies and gentlemen and friends of all gens, please welcome the Reverend Dr. E.K. Daufin to the NAAFA Webinar series. Hi, Dr. D.
Hello, I'm so happy and blessed to be here. And I like when you said, and all gens, I first heard for a millisecond, all jazz. I'm thinking, and all that jazz. So
and all those gens.
exactly.
Yeah, I have a hard time letting go of the phrase ladies and gentlemen because I hear it as the sort of like, this is how you hype up a crowd. But we know that there are folks who don't identify with those two terms. So we want to include our friends of all gens. And thank you for noting that, Dr. D. Normally, I chat a little bit with guests before we get into their presentation, but I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for Q&A. So and we had such a thorough bio from Dr. D, so I feel like you've got a good grounding in who she is. So what I'm going to do now is just pass the mic to Dr. D. And if you have questions if you're here with us live today and you have questions, please feel free to put those into the chat at any time. I'll also give you a heads up when we're actually going to be taking those questions. I will interrupt Dr. D if you have a question that just seems like you can't move on without understanding. But if it's something that can wait until she gets all the way through her presentation, we're going to see if she answers it along the way before we ask. Okay. All right, Dr. D, take it away.
Take it away. I'm so happy to be here. I want to thank you, Tigress, so much. I love that Tigress Osborne is a can-do kind of person, no matter how big, no matter how wild, we will just get it done. And I thank all the board members, especially the two angels and Tigress's mom, who are always helping out and supporting. This is a survey or an introduction on fat and faith working to end weight stigma in spiritual space. Tigress gave me the space there, and religious realms. I could easily do an hour class on each of the slides, but we ain't gonna do that today. So please look at the spaces at the end of the class and how you can contact me if you have other questions, and also type them into the chat if you have questions about something that I'm basically just, going through, skipping over. The first 4 or 5 slides, I'm basically going to read to you with little or no addition or comment. If you brought your ritual objects and things to class, if you read that little part in the bio, that's fine. If you didn't, that's fine too. You're going to use mine. The first thing we're going to do is create some big, fat, sacred space. And this is going to be for us, everyone who's here, and everyone who will be here, because time is not linear. I don't embody that completely yet, but I believe it, and I know it, and I feel it. So know that we will be able to move through that in that way for everyone who's here is going to be here. First thing we want to do in establishing our sacred space here is to remember the indigenous people who used to inhabit and sometimes still inhabit in a different unfortunately, as an oppressed way, the land on which each of us sit now. In all the colonized places, it was taken from indigenous people and who thought, Mother Earth, you don't own your mother. Are you crazy? But we're owning the land now. So I am thanking and giving honor and praise to especially the Choctaw Nation, because they were in central Alabama, both east and west, and that's where I am right now in Montgomery. This part of me is. And also the other 19 nations, other 18 nations making 19, who lived in harmony with Mother Earth in this geographical area. And also, especially if you're in the United States, the Caribbean, Brazil, and many other places, especially in Central and Southern and Northern America, you are living on and you are still benefiting from enslaved and bred Africans who received no recompense and only heartache, terror, and trauma for their labor. So we are giving honor and praise to all the ancestors and to all the peoples and nations who inhabited this land and owned this land. And we ask for their healing and honoring and for reparations to them. We're going to salute the 4 directions in this way and the 5 elements. The first one is air. So I want you just to take 2 gentle deep breaths. When people used to tell me to breathe, I used to go, you know, and that's not what we want. We want a nice gentle in breath and out. We're going to take 2 of those because this is a 2 vibration day in this time space continuum. Okay, ready? So first one, breathe in. Breathe out, nice and easy and gentle. Breathe in. Feel yourself settle in, relax, gentle, out. All right. If you brought your water or tea for libation, yay. If you didn't, you're using mine. Our bodies are made of mostly of water. One of the reasons the planet Earth is so important is that the planet Earth is mostly water and has available fresh water. And we want to thank all the warriors who are protecting and cleansing and fighting for water on planet Earth. We want to remind ourselves to use this blood of our Mother Earth wisely and with great thankfulness to water. Take a sip, put that out the way so it won't waste on your device. And then next we are going to bless spirit and the candle with fire. And don't you know, together Dr. D did not put her lighter here, apparently. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. Y'all just wait a sec. I have it right here. See, that didn't take long. No worries. All right, so I have my gorgeous, very cool pink lotus candle holder, but it doesn't matter with the tea light in it, what kind of candle you have, or if you're sharing mine. So we light this candle and we call forth fire and spirit. We call forth the ancestors and all those who are assisting us in our evolutionary and revolutionary journeys on earth. May the minds open and the hearts stay open, and may we receive divine enlightenment today and wherever we are in the time space continuum. Ashe, Amen. Okay, so we have thanked water. We're going to do a little chant, and you can see the words to the little chant right there at the bottom of the slide. I'm going to do it once and clap my hands. Then we're going to do it twice together, okay? And clap your hands if it feels good. If it doesn't, that's cool. Or do it in your heart if you're sneaking on work. Shh. Okay, here we go. We're going to say, air I am, water I am, fire, spirit, and earth I am. Okay, together twice. Air I am, water I am, fire, spirit, and earth I am. Air I am, water I am, fire, spirit, and earth I am. Ashe, ashe. And I ask you to bring a plant with you, a little plant person from Mother Earth, or you can just think about the plants or the grass outside. And we want to thank Mother Earth and all the good that grows and all the food and the way that she nourishes us in all ways. Ashe, Amen. All right. So the sacred space is built. I want to talk to you about, often when we talk about, Tigress was so wonderful to read that lovely long bio. And we want to think that, oh, these people, they just did this and I must be bad because I have such difficulty and so forth. No, 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 no. Usually what you're seeing is the end result of often horrific struggle and disappointment and despair. And you're just coasting on the ripples on the top and seeing these successes. So I want you to know that life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's from a Langston Hughes poem. And I sure enough was not born with any silver spoon in my mouth. In fact, I think I've only licked a silver spoon maybe once or twice in my life. And I look forward to more silver spoons. You know, the trace silver is very good for your health. So that's great. Some of the cred you already heard about the PhD. I have 2 bachelors from the historically Black Morgan State University. Go Bears! I speak 2.5 languages, 2.5, fluently, and bits of others. I have been and earned a full tenure professorship at an accredited university. I'm both a performing and fine artist. I'm a multimedia professional, writer, poet. I'm also a journalist, an ordained minister that's multi-religious, multiple religions, and I am a researcher, a social justice activist, a social change artist activist. I also have many psychic and spirit gifts. Everybody has many psychic and spirit gifts. Usually one is more dominant than the other, and you can all improve that and strengthen that in yourself. And we have to pay our dues. So you have to work on that. And Goddess knows I've been working on that very hard my whole journey and still do every day. Here's some of the crud, some of the things I've had to go through, but I give thanks to them for having survived them. Just barely, but I skin on my teeth sometimes. Post-traumatic stress disorder, multiple family abuses by multiple perpetrators. As a child, I was working class. As an adult, I have known poverty. Misogynoir, that interesting overlay of Black and female, that is it's more difficult than either of those two separately, and often is ignored because of all the intersections, you put more on of oppressed identities, it's more difficult. So we're just going to talk about our list: racism, sexism, sizeism, classism in home, school, work, church, spiritual places, activism places, in life, in every darn place. Also with our identities, and you see secret agent woman, we have identities that people see and identities people make assumptions of, right? Which is important when we talk about oppression, because if someone knows you're such and such, they can enact all their conscious and subconscious oppressions upon you. So for most, I'm obviously Black or a woman of color. I'm obviously a woman to some, but with misogynoir, I've had to fight for my identity as a woman. So that's why, rather than being, as a cisgen woman with voluptuous breasts, that should be a freaking given. You should ask what may be my identity after that, but that hasn't always been the case. And I am fat, and that depends, of course, for all of us in the relative space. Usually where I show up, I'm the fattest person there. One of those reasons is because of some of my hidden identities as a dancer. Those of you who are dancers, what a terror it is to be recognized and to be seen as a dancer and all the weight stigma associated with that. I am multi-ancestored, so I don't talk about being multiracial because I am Black, as President Obama said or used to say when he was organizing in the streets of Chicago. Nobody looked at him and said, "Hey, there goes that half white guy." No, he's Black, and I'm glad he is wise enough to identify this way. I'm also a star seed, so I have ancestral off-planet Thanksgiving to give also. I have some stress-induced handicaps. I am straight but not narrow. I'm a cis woman, and I am a feminist. Poverty sensitive, and I have a highly sensitive nervous system as a highly sensitive person. I'm an ally. So far, I am single, and I'm child-free, not childless, child-free. I have some fur babies who are children to me, but let's not go there right now, okay? Want to talk about some of the terms I'm going to be using in the next 30 or so minutes. And they're talking about how we are organized, and that has a certain structure and intention, right? About how these social and all the other manifestations of living on planet Earth, how that these are manifest. Before I go into that, I want you to notice the art on the right side of the slide. This is in Ethiopia, and I was in Houston when I first saw this piece of art. And even though it's all men and they are all fairly thin, or relatively thin, just to see Black folks. I didn't have to color in or make it my own brown or cheat some child I'm with. No, we're going to color that in and make that brown for the deity and other holy people. So that's what that piece of art is. The matriarchy is not the patriarchy with women in charge doing the do. against people. The matriarchy is the most ancient form of social organization, and it is based on the fact, right? The intention is that everything that is femme or feminine or identified mostly with women, because we're all masculine and feminine, right? We all have both of those energies within us. That everything that is woman is good, is wonderful, is normal, is great. Okay. With matrilineal, it's not the same as matriarchy. Matrilineal societies, and we still have a few of them around the earth, it means that the property is inherited through the female. However, patriarchy has, has its great grips in that, and often that means that whoever the female belongs to is married to her eldest brother or her father. He gets to control, but when anyone dies, when she dies, it passes to her partner, or in real matrilineal culture, passes to her daughters. Then we have patriarchy, which is the most recent as far as human development on this planet is concerned, but um, uh, problematic. Bell Hooks talks about patriarchy, capitalism, and white supremacy. And for me, those are all parts of patriarchy, and that's how I'm going to speak of them. If you are interested in what is a matriarchal society and how can we work toward that now as the earth shifts into this new age and new dimension we're going into, you can take a look at The Chalice and the Blade by Dr. Rian Eisler. There's also a practical companion guide, which is wonderful, especially if you can find a like-minded group to work through it. And that's called Practical Companion Guide, The Partnership Way. That's also by Rian Eisler and David Loye. I'm not sure if that's the right way to say his name, but with all good intention. There we go. You don't often hear about fat and spirituality talked about together. In fact, when I Googled, I was using Bing, so I didn't Google it, I Binged it, right? When I was looking for images of fat angels, was what I wanted. This was the best I could do in that whole big internet. And of course, we know there are some other images out there. I collect them and have a few in my house, or just brown them up if they're white as or white skinned looking as this one is. But this is a Christmas ornament, and some of you have seen it and own one. On Etsy, from Etsy and other places, other fat positive places. So let's talk about some of the problems when we look at the patriarchal framework. Patriarchy has the notion that these false dichotomies, that these things are separate, and they are apart from one another, when really they are integrated and integral. So we look at spirit and body. They're not two different things. Typically in our patriarchal setting, and believe me, all of us who have a computer and are in on this, or device, and who are in on this conference, we are no doubt living in a patriarchal society, whether you claim it for yourself or not. It is, along with white supremacy and classism and capitalism, it is part of our life. Even so-called communistic countries or socialistic countries have some capitalistic influences to survive in the world economy in that way, the old way, that we're in the shift going to a new way. So there's also the false dichotomy of pleasure and sacredness and holiness. And so, some things are nasty and unholy, and other things are, the stoic things, the things that hurt, that those are the holy things. No, it's a matter of context, how you do it, what are the agreements between the parties? Are all parties able to give consent and be of agreement, so that pleasure and holiness are actually one? Also, a patriarchy has a false hierarchy, that everything masculine and male is first and good and on top, and in the power over position, and that everything feminine and femme and female is on the bottom, not as good, lower. That's a false hierarchy. And I want to make sure that people know that the intersectional, fat, holy Black woman in Christianity in many places and churches, particularly in the US and Canada, you say, oh, well, she's fat and everybody knows she's spiritual, but she's asexual. She's the servant to everyone. She's limited, and that if she gives herself away and doesn't require any feeding, like you have to feed the Mother Earth and the elements so you can be fed. Feed spiritual energy, so spiritual energy will feed you. There's a reciprocity that's going on. Women put in that role don't have that, and I've been trying to stay out of that role as much as I can. Then we have a notion, it's very interesting. I've only heard it supported in two different ways, but think about this, folks who have been oppressed in spiritual spaces and religious realms for being of higher weight and fat. Think about that. You may be fat because, oh, right, we're always talking about, oh, why are people fat and why are you that fat? And, it's got to be a reason for it because it's wrong, it's bad. Did it happen to you or did you do it? Eating all those horrible, terrible, nasty myths, we dispel them. That one reason some people may be of higher weight is because you may be highly spiritualized souls, and you may not have had many lifetimes on earth, or you may not be ready for the trials of this one. And things seem so much easier on the spiritual side, no matter how well prepared you are, so that often to have a higher weight body helps to ground you and keep you in the earth to do your magical and marvelous spiritual work. So think about that. Put that in your bonnet. All right, I'm going to talk a little more thoroughly about haze. I know you're all coming from different spaces about how much you know about haze. I am a haze expert, and haze is a copyrighted term by ASDA, the Association for Size, Diversity, and Health, and you can look at asdah.org. You can look that up. These are the 5 principles of haze, and I'm going to talk about how they should be, and in my model, should be present in spiritual spaces and in religions and churches and temples and so forth. One is that, and I know most places, most churches and temples and spaces and, New Age and, yoga spaces and New Age learning, and supposedly enlightened spaces, these are a far cry for most of them, still every day. And so, but know that this is the goal. This is what I'm going to ask you to do, and going to give you some support ways to make manifest. So there should be weight inclusivity, right? And that means in church spaces, the most important ones that I'm looking at is that there should be fat positivity. That being fat is a great good thing, and it doesn't have to be demeaning in any way, and at minimum should be weight neutral. So no one is ever praised for being thin. No one is ever praised for intentional weight loss. And you are looking at fat as beautiful, as great, not yes, but. There's a wonderful book. It's quite spicy. I say spicy instead of old because in our society, old is so demonized and unrespected. So there's a book called, Such a Pretty Face, because people often say that, especially to fat women, right? That, oh, you have such a pretty face, too bad. If you lost the weight, right? That it would, you'd be better, you'd be prettier. So all these spiritual and religious places need to be weight inclusive. That means fat positive. Haze has a concept of health enhancement. And for my purposes here, that means no healthism, that it's good if we can enhance our health as much as we can, all things considered, in a gentle, easy, natural way. The body knows what is health. The body knows the way. Do you know the way? The body knows the way. And so we're going to say no to healthism. So we're going to say no to intentional weight loss. No to weight loss as being something good or something you should strive for, or something you're bad if you don't achieve or maintain, which is virtually impossible. But go look at the ASDA stuff and you'll begin to understand. We're also going to say no to weight loss surgery. That's stomach butchering, and it is detrimental. And there's a place for people who need strength. Well, everyone deserves, we don't have to be strong all the time. And a lot of times when we're being strong, we don't feel very strong. So we want to say no to weight loss and no to weight loss surgery. And even if you've had weight loss surgery, there's a place you can go if you now regret it, wish you hadn't done it, or you're seeing what no one told you and should have told you about what it does, really does to the body. And if you have come to that new notion and you need support or you want to support others, there's a great Facebook group. It is private, so you'll have to apply. And it's called Saying No, in quotations, exclamation point, to weight loss surgery, WSL, saying no to WSL, exclamation point. Another principle of HAES is eating for well-being, right? You're not eating because this has so many micronutrients and this is being good, this is good food, this is bad food, meaning calories, or you were never going to talk about, oh, you're only going to eat clean food. What you eat and what you have access to eat and what your body wants to eat is subject to so many factors that as an individual in the moment are out of your control. And that's one of the things about religion and spiritual spaces and weight oppression, higher weight stigma, that it's the notion that not only are we in New Age individually, that's part of capitalism, that's part of patriarchy, it's your fault for everything and you need to do everything to change everything yourself to meet our standards or these standards. And so we're going to talk about intuitive eating is what we want to do. And no matter what your health or health conditions are, there are certain ways that you can be gentle to the body and tune into the body. And if you're like me, who was put on a weight loss diet by my mother at 5 years old, and all of us are, to whatever extent immersed in this society that is so, weight conscious and eat clean and do this and do that, and you're bad if you don't, and so forth. Intuitive eating is something that you may want guidance and help with, and it's wonderfully liberating. And the best single book I found, and there are many good ones, is The Diet Survivor's Handbook. It's by Ellen Frankel and Judith Matt. The Diet Survivor's Handbook. We also have the fourth principle of HAES is respectful care, and that talks about the pharmacology and health industry. Medical industry and healthcare, but also in religious and spiritual places and in holistic health, which is, a merging of spiritual places and so forth, that we need in all those spaces and in all churches and temples in practices and spaces and yoga classes and Tai Chi, all those others. We need to end fat stigma. We need to end fat bias. We need to end fat discrimination in all those ways. Okay, and then the last of the main principles of HAES calls about life-enhancing movement. So we're not going to beat our body, take out that no pain, no gain, balderdash, take that out of your consciousness. Don't say it, don't use it, don't afford it space in your life. We want to move for pleasure, not pain, and move to the best of your ability and gently. And it takes effort. Those of us who have been divorced from our body because it's so painful and the stigma is so painful and just living life is so painful in a larger body because of the weight stigma and bias and harassment and discrimination, that we think we should move to exercise, and that, when the elevator was broken in a horrible workspace I was in and I had to climb 10 stairs, 10 flights, long, big industrial flights of stairs, carrying all this equipment because there was nothing for me in the different places I had to work all day. People would say, that's good, that you're sweating. That's good that you need to walk those stairs. No, I needed the elevator to be working so that I could make the deadlines I wanted. It should be my choice because, it feels like fun to run up and down these steps. And sometimes it might, but not carrying all that stuff. Okay. So that's just an example of life enhancing movement. Those are all principles of, hey, so there shouldn't be any exercises in any church or religious or spiritual place where, we're going to work you, we're going to fight that, we're going to make sure we get that fat off of you, and, and divorcing us from our bodies. And, instead of the fat being, it's not that we're thin people inside a fat body. The fatness is our body. We want to embody the fatness because Holy Spirit, God, Goddess, is in that fat, is in every part of that body. Okay. It's not the exorcist, right, to get the thin person out and into society. Let's talk about fat bias in religions and religious paths. I've mentioned and touched on it now. And we're moving for about the last 10 minutes of our presentation now. And we need to remove the fat bias, or begin to recognize and heal ourselves from the fat bias in church and temple practices, and in in religion and holy pictures that we have. You notice in the art here, I chose a picture of a laughing Buddha. It's a sculpture that is also brown, which I thought was interesting and good. The racism, colorism, all those intersections in sacred art, of course, also. And the only Buddha that is fat is the laughing Buddha, which, there are good reasons for that. And he's supposed to show abundance, and that's why he's fat. But he also has to be, it's the clown. Yes, it's the Buddha. But, the fat people always have to be, if we are to be at all, we have to be like Santa, jolly, ho, ho, ho. And, in popular culture, we even have, I know in English language, popular culture, we have all the ideas of Santa going on a diet. Or you notice Mrs. Claus is always really thin. We want to make sure that we take the fat bias and harassment and weight stigma out of the pulpit. So we should never, a lot of patriarchal, misogynoir health organizations are infiltrating, especially the Black church is a target these days, and trying to enforce, weight loss and weight loss stigma and weight loss, fatties, get yourself together. And there's so many prayer programs that you can access on the net and in churches, about, let's walk for health and, walk off some of that fat, this horrible thing, and that if you do these things, you'll be closer to God. Cleanliness is next to godliness, so is supposedly thinness. And pray, if your faith is right, and if you're listening to God, that you would become thin. And even in goddess cultures, I'm skipping a little bit here, but even in so-called goddess circles, that most of the goddess depictions in sacred art are of thin folks. I'm always asking people or saying, this is beautiful. Would be nice if we could have a fat goddess here. Would be nice if it could be a brown, better even a Black goddess with kinky hair and, brown eyes. So we find that even in the New Age, especially in the New Age, I can't tell you how many New Age lectures and classes I've been in as a student where even the analogies they make, it's like you're on a diet, but you're bad and evil and weak and you eat such and such and you do such and such. That's balderdash, and that's weight stigma that we should remove from our spaces. And even in traditional religions, and I'm not talking about now the Abrahamic religions, or even, not Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism. When I say traditional religions, I mean Ifa and Santeria and the indigenous religions, Wiccan, old school Wiccan, not the new age Wiccan, but that these religious paths, even people who follow those paths, talk about weight loss as a virtue, or being a higher weight. And of course, that's relative. It's the fattest person in the room, who is doing these bad things, and is assumed to do these bad things because I've done all those things, and that's a whole nother class about why I'm still a woman of size and am a woman of size. You can't beat or run the fat out of folks. Some people, they do it and they're like, oh, everyone should do it. Everyone should work that way. But everyone's body doesn't work that way. And everyone's psyche cannot pass through that and be healthy and have their creativity and their love and their power. So even in those traditional religions, one of the reasons I cannot, that I'm not part of a perhaps otherwise wonderful group of Black women across the country, especially in the Southeast, who follow West African spirituality, Ifa, Oshun, they still believe in weight loss, and when they do readings, they make recommendations about weight loss, and how they're bad when they're feasting and they're eating such. And even there are beads that women buy to put around our waist, and they should be of certain stones and colors and energies, and little tokens for energy and inspiration on it. What it's used for in modern life is they use it for weight loss, which to me, is well, I won't say what it is to me, but so that oh, as you lose weight, you can pull the belt tighter, so you're doing right, and even talking to the Orisha for weight loss. So we want to refuse that. We want to reject that. There are lots of text misinterpretations, and in my school of thought, and in my church and spiritual path, that holy texts are wonderful. They are typically built on very ancient texts that have been misinterpreted and used for political uses, and patriarchy, and capitalism, and classism, and used politically. And the victors, the temporary victors, usually the most cruel and non-respectful of life and the planet and the mother of God, the energy that is life, and that helps and moves us all. That those textual interpretations, or even what was written, is sometimes not Holy Spirit, not God, however you know her or him to be, their direct, clear word today in this shifting earth. Also, we want to talk about a lot of the stigma in weight stigma in church and religious spaces and temples comes from synagogues, comes from the pulpit, or the leader of the church, who has these own internalized problems, misunderstandings. Just as we live in a racist, a sexist, we also live in a sizist universe. Everyone's colonized by the media now, Western media. So those ideas often come from the pulpit because, they are humans who have a divine mission and purpose. And a whole lot more even comes from confused, condescending congregants who, thin privileged ones will look at themselves and say, oh, I am better than, I am, this person. And oh, if you'd only do something. I came into a church, first time when I was first moved to New Orleans, and it was a Unitarian Universal Church, which is known as some of the most liberal, and comes from a history of ending slavery and abolition. That I came in, and it was Easter, and I looked fabulous, and I just came in and I crossed my legs and sat down into there's a yoga word for that, but cross-legged position. And a Black woman sitting near the edge, she moved to me about, hey, have something to tell you. And I felt, oh, maybe this one will be my friend, some connection in New Orleans. And I leaned over and she said, It's amazing you can sit down like that as big as you are. So, yes. So we want to make sure that, pastors and leaders of church spaces and you as a congregant can also not only stop yourself, but call others out when they do that. All right, we're down to about the last 5 minutes here, and I want to talk about some ways that we can beat back the bias, okay? Beat back the weight stigma in spiritual spaces and religious realms, as well as in all of our life. So one thing is that has been very useful to me is tapping or emotional freedom technique. But beware when you go read or you go look at tapes and recordings or study scripts to use when tapping, that beware of the prolific and horrible weight stigma in most of the scripts. In fact, the uh, Hayes, it's a group of wonderful professionals that I belong to. We are the health Hayes therapists and nutritionists, right? And so one of the reasons that that group, they just don't want to hear about the tapping is because it's insidious in the tapping and EFT community. So I have to do my own, and I do that kind of work, and I also look for tapping scripts and things that are free of that. There's very little. Some of them, when I'm strong, I can just say cancel, cancel when they do that, and I do my own. But one of the apps, and it's a free app, okay, and it's called Tapping Solutions. It's free to download, and you get access to some scripts, but of course, the premium you would have to pay for. However, there's only one that I really recommend in that Tapping Solutions. I use many of them, but that's with a lot of preparation and expertise and skill and working around. The only one I would recommend to anyone straight off, but it's in the paid usage group, and that's the gratitude series. It's day 6. Surprisingly, gratitude for my body. I was so surprised and delighted that that particular script doesn't have any weight shaming. In just about all of the other ones, I find that there's weight shaming and higher weight bias and fat hatred. In all of them, even if it's just a little part, but then you get hit by that and you take it out of the sacred space, and the healing from the tapping, right? Tapping on while saying certain things and holding certain things in mind help to reprogram your brain and your nervous system. So I would agree with that. You can also look at the app is also good for learning how to tap without listening, to their scripts or being aware of their scripts. You can learn how to tap. And also you can look at, for free, EFTuniverse.com. They have lots and lots of videos and scripts and articles that are very helpful about that. A resource for people of the who are Judaic, Jewish people, is fattorah.com, fattorah.com. And there's also a Facebook group page called Fat Torah. And this is a wonderful resource for Jewish people. And also, as a person who is, I'm multi-religious, but I, have not been brought up in the Jewish tradition or Jewish faith. And I have some problems with pray that I shall not be a man, but there's a path to freedom for all of us wherever we are, right? That I don't want to, this is an excellent space, because even as a non-Jew, looking at the posts that are there are inspirational, and they are purposely and directly non-weight stigmatizing and following all those Hayes principles applied to Judaism and the Torah and just spiritual existence. The wonderful creator and leader or co-leader in that space calls herself a Jewiscapalian. I think I'm saying it right, Mycroft. I hope so. Jewiscapalian. So I love that multi-religious title there. Another thing is activism. and we can join with others. And, people say, oh, but oh, it's spiritual. Oh, it's with God. I shouldn't have to do this. It should be, right and perfect, or whatever they say should be the way it should be. And that's why I have to do X, Y, and Z and hate my body and lose weight, all that balderdash. One thing is that you need to ask them to stop that unholy stuff. Okay, stop it. And there's a whole science to learning how to ask. Because of my multiple oppressions, I have been asked to, I've been ashamed and even punished for asking things personally, professionally, since I was born, probably. I probably got hit for crying for milk or whatever, who knows. My mother did tell me that when, and she was unusual, and honor and praise to her for breastfeeding at all, because it wasn't, considered good for a woman to breastfeed at all at that point. It was shamed. But she breastfed me for 3 months. And I used to tell her, no matter, could have been so much more brilliant if I had had that breast milk for even longer. But she said the minute I bit her, that she slapped me on the butt, she spanked me. And that was the last bit of nursing that I got there in so many levels. Moving on. So asking is really important, and asking them to stop, telling them to stop, and doing it in a way that doesn't hurt you. So if you you work through with tapping or other instruments and ways to get the anger and the worst of it out, express it, because it shouldn't remain in your body. And anger is holy. One book I'd like to write is called Forget Forgiveness. That's a whole nother class. But if anger is not something you should feel guilty about, you can see at this website, Cassia Urbaniak. She has a blog, a post that's called Ask for What You Want Powerfully. I took a whole, I think it was an 8-week class with her. And this is a powerful work. And remember, all these people that I recommend, I'm not recommending everything they do, like with the Tapping Solutions app. So, if they give you something that, you want to push back against, and it's not within what you think is right or good, don't say, oh, Dr. D must agree with this, right? Maybe not, or maybe things have changed. But I'm just asking you to go for these specific things. So that asking class is very powerful and useful. And I'm still using it and still working on the skills, because I was taught, not to ask for anything, right? Be low maintenance. You can write short neutral notes for people. And when I say neutral, I don't mean that you can't say such and such was wrong, such and such was bad. What I mean is that you need to be able to say, this is what I want. And this is, why you should do it. And just a really simple statement. And remember that these are, it's a whole skill set. But if you can write, to the best of your ability, a short neutral note, don't, talk about, work out the other stuff about all the things they did to you and all the rest, and work specifically on what do you want them to do? What did they do that hurt you? And this is what they're going to do to get back in your graces, to get the forgiveness. Asking for forgiveness is a skill. Just saying you're sorry, don't cut it. There are 4 sources you can look at to realize how you should really apologize and how you should ask others to apologize to you. It's a 4 or 5 step process. You can look at Getting Called Out, How to Apologize. That is by Chess Calais, ChesCaligh on YouTube. It's 8 minutes and 37 seconds. Getting Called Out, How to Apologize. There's another one that is very short. It's from an Islamic group. I believe it's Islamic. How to Apologize. It's by The Prophet's Path. It's only 1 minute and 53 seconds. Another YouTube is called, video is called 5 Steps to Apologize. And that's by Psych, P-S-Y-C-H, the number 2, Go. And that's 2 minutes and 35 seconds. If you can ask for this, ask them to stop that unholy weight stigma. If you can do that in person or face to face, even if it's a video phone call, or voice is second best, right? Then do that. And remember, and I have to practice this all the time, that it's wonderful if you can do it right in the moment. Oh, when you are grooving on that, you are rolling, my friend. And, we're not all of that space all the time. But remember that if you can't do it then, you can do it before they do it again, right? You can do it later. You can, and remember to always do it after preparing yourself and what you're going to say. So that is ending our time here. Two more things I want to do. I want to tell you that another thing you can do in addition to the action, right? Prayer and action, you can pray. But this is the prayer I'd like you to pray. I got it from a sister who you can find her work under Got To, number 2, and then the letter B, Oshun, Oshun, got to be Oshun, adapted from her. This is the prayer you should pray for other folks. You pray that there are lessons of life, that those people who are oppressing and stigmatizing fat folks and other intersectional people of intersectional identities, we wish them the lessons of life to those fat herders and haters. And for us, for woke, fat, positive people, and remember, we won't be woke on everything all the time, that's okay, but we wish ourselves joy, ecstasy, bliss. Okay, that's the prayer we want to pray. And so I'm going to show you and just leave up here as we're going to end ways to contact me. Best way is on Facebook Messenger. Even if we're not already friends, they will, send me a message that you're trying to contact me. I have a website, ekdaufin.com. I have a business page on Facebook, and notice that it's E-K or E-K. Notice as you're looking at this last slide that it is it makes a difference when you're trying to access me through these ways. I have a YouTube channel. One is E-K Daufin, and the other is E space lowercase k Daufin. I've tried to merge them. Those of you who've tried to do that, it's fraught with difficulty. And then I have my email address here. No list. Don't put me on any list, no matter how helpful or great you think I might think it is. No list to that email address. And yes, only to send booking related inquiries only. And also you can use that email address to give me donations if you want, however spirit may move, to PayPal. And I also have a blog that has some older works that I have. It's called Daufin Nation, like DAUFINATION. I was trying to be cute, right? Nation of Dauphin, dauphination.blogspot.com. And then we're going to close the space before our Q&A. And I am going to stop the share. I'm going to show you my whole face. I think, is that good enough, Tigress? Okay, yes. Good. Thank you. All right. So all of us, we are going to energetically hold hands, and in love and respect for us all and gratefulness for being here, joy and fun. And don't worry if you feel overwhelmed. That was a whole lot of material fairly quickly. I talk fast anyway. So we want to thank our angels and ancestors, friends and family, guides and guardians, healers and helpers, all the elements, all the angels, all the powers of good who are helping us in our evolutionary and revolutionary journey on Earth and through this important shift in the universe. We want to thank you for your presence. Go if you must, stay if you will, in the name of all that is holy and good and the gods and goddesses of our understanding. Amen. Ashe, Aho. And so it is. My girl, Tigress.
Thank you. So you gave us so much information, so much to digest. I have invited folks in the chat to post questions. Let's give them just 1 minute to see if anyone wants to add anything. One question that I wanted to ask you is, I see a lot of parallels. When I think about the term zeal of the converted, I see a lot of parallels between the enthusiasm that people have when they have newly discovered religion and the enthusiasm they have when they have newly discovered temporary weight loss. And I wanted to see if you had any comments on that.
Oh, my comments are preach, hallelujah. Yes, sir. Yeah. There's the notion from many scholars that Saul, when he was struck by lightning and became convicted of Christ, that he just changed what he was messing with people for, right? Paul, when he became Paul, he didn't become a kinder, gentler person. He just decided, instead of collecting taxes and being cruel and vicious to folks, that he was going to use that same energy to propagate the faith, right? And especially people who are so happy with, all the glow that comes from the temporary weight loss. Madam Board Chair and terrific Tigress, that, over Deb Burkhardt can really run this down, right? She's a scientist, therapist in the field, about how over 98% really, right? But by simple calculations and what people say, over 95% of people who lose more than 5 pounds or so will gain back that weight within the next 5 years or more. And those practices that cause that temporary weight loss are typically so unmaintainable, that even if you continue those things, that they will regain that weight and more, because it's the body saying, "You're trying to kill me. I'm coming back. I'm staying here. I'm going to ground more. Give me more weight." And in churches too, and in life, right? People are going to praise you and, "Oh, you're so great and beautiful." The people who knew you before, other folks, this is what I call why it's really ridiculous too, that because all you have to do is go to a new cafe, right? Go to a different church. If people haven't seen you before that temporary dramatic weight loss, they're going to say, "You're still fat. You need to do something." Oh, I hate that. And people have said that to me so many times, cruelly. They say, "Do something about yourself." Ugh, nasty. We dispel that. And so people are so often, if they manage, and often, sometimes even, we're talking about the newly convicted, right? So people who have, recently lost whatever temporary weight loss, they want to say they finally found what they think works for them, works for that purpose, and they want to share it with you, because if I can do it, you can. So many of the self-help industry is based on that, that you use your story, your before and after, and in all things holy, we should stop having those before and after pictures, unless, like you see in some fat positive memes, they look the same, or you look fatter in the after, right? It's like, "And now, getting 50 pounds, I am really gorgeous, or really strong, or really healthy." So yes, I agree 100% that the newly converted are some of the most dangerous people, and in church and spiritual places, as well as in other life spaces, are the most dangerous. And sometimes I like to let their steam roll out before I even try to engage with them, if I can, simply to protect myself from having to do that Sisyphean kind of work of, really hard, really thankless, because, those who don't wish, who aren't ready to be convicted, they won't be.
How can folks who may have questions later, we have lots of gratitude for you in the chat. If you haven't seen it yet, since you were presenting,
I haven't.
Look at that before we close the room. But no questions from the audience this time. I think you gave us so much information. But what if people think of questions later? There was one question from Maria who asked if we could provide some of the resources you mentioned during your slides. So we'll send that out. Okay. And also, if they think of a question later, is it okay to just email you and ask?
No, don't email me, but do messenger me on Facebook. And even if you're not a member of Facebook, there's some way, because I get inquiries that way, that, oh, this person doesn't use Facebook, but they are sending you a message on Messenger about that. So yes, if they have questions, certainly messenger me on Facebook. And if it's a simple question, I'll be glad to to answer it for you right there and then. If not, we can talk about, other ways in which I can be of service to you. So but if you want to book me, you want me to speak online or in person as things get safer to do so, um, you know, uh, or to have a private session with me. If you're talking about booking, um, then certainly go ahead and email me. But if you just have a question, and I'm glad to answer those about this session, please messenger me on Facebook.
Great. Thank you so much for being with us today. We're going to go ahead and wrap up so we can let everybody carry these messages and these wisdoms out into the world.
Yes.
Once again, we want to thank Ryan and Benny from Pro Bono ASL for their fabulous interpreting. We want to thank our guests for joining us and bringing their energy. And of course, we want to thank the Reverend Dr. E.K. Daufin for providing us with all of these insights and all of these things to continue thinking about and to continue layering in with our other activism and our own spiritual practices and just the ways that we move through the world. So thank you, Dr. D, for your time today and your wisdom. And we will see all of you for the next. Next up is our new series, Ahead of the Curve, featuring Mercy Cruz, and then this weekend's workshop with the cast of Live Big Girl, and then we've got a couple more webinars next week, and then we finish out with some great fun activities for the end of the month. Please visit NAAFA.org and click on the Fat Liberation Month tab so that you can see everything else that's still left for the month of May. Thanks for being with us, everybody. We'll see you next time.